we are going to be working on page 29 in our book, and we're going to be filling out the table that is there. So I'm going to start with the rice. And what I did was I put some rice in the bottom, I boiled it with some water, and now I'm just going to pull off the liquid. And so that liquid is going to look kind of cloudy. Okay, and you can kind of see that it's cloudy, it's white, you know, not much to it. So the first thing we're going to test is iodine, and we're checking for starch. Now, something I need you to do before I do that is to make a prediction in the data table. Okay, so please take a moment to write your prediction down.
Of what color you believe it's going to turn.
Yes.
Correct.
All right, and please remember that our iodine is kind of a gold color to start with, okay? And it's kept in a dark brown bottle so that it's kind of sensitive to light, so we don't want it exposed to light, and it's kept in a dark cabinet too. All right, so hopefully we all have our prediction down as to what color we think we're gonna end up with. And I am going to put a drop or two. Notice the color change in our rice.
That was quick.
We have nice dark color, which indicates that we do have starch in our rice. The next test I'm going to run is the Benedict's test, and that's testing for sugar. Try not to fill this too full. So remember, we've got this cloudy liquid that we are working off of. Our Benedict's solution is a blue color. Okay, so when I put it in here, it'll probably, you know, not be as bright a blue as it is in the bottle. Okay, but we'll shake this up, and then I need to put it in the hot water bath, and I'm going to take a moment to stir this, and the reason being is I put a fresh beaker there, so we'll see how that goes. While that's sitting in there, I am going to fill another little vial with our rice water, okay, and then I'm going to use our burette solution, and this indicates if there is protein in our rice.
That's blue to two.
Yep. All right, so we're looking to see if there's a change from our blue color. And then it might lighten in color, but the color that we're looking for is purple.
So really no change in color.
And give that another minute or so. Okay, and I forgot to remind you to write predictions down for each of these different tests. So here, before we go into the Sudan, jot down what color you think we're gonna have. Are we gonna have that dull maroon, or are we going to have the bright red?
So Sudan is dull maroon.
Dull maroon or bright red, depending on if it's bright red, it means it has fat in it. Okay, so Sudan is our test for fat. I'll shake that up, and it looks like it's that dull maroon color. Okay.
So no fat.
Yeah. All right. Let me pull this out. And it does not look like we have any sugar in our rice. Our Benedict's came back blue. Okay. So to recap, for our potato, or for our rice, yes, there is starch. We ended up with no glucose because it did not change color. Burette solution did not change. It's still that light blue, so there's no protein. And this stayed dull maroon, so there's no fat in it. Okay, so our next item that we are testing for is, or that we're testing is whole milk. So we're going to do the same things again. We're going to test for, we're going to use the iodine solution to test for starch. We're going to use Benedict's to test for sugar. Burette to test for protein, and Sudan to test for fats. So if you could go and take a few minutes and make a prediction for each of those. So whole milk, does it have starch in it? Does it have sugar in it? Does it have protein or fat in it? So what you know about milk, make your predictions for each of those, please. I'm going to take a little bit of that time while you're doing your predictions, and I'm going to fill each of the vials, and then I'll talk about the milk. Okay, so let's hope we got our predictions down for each of our results. So milk, I think we've all seen milk at some point, but it's not clear. Definitely opaque, I think is the word we would use for it. You can't see through it. It is white. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop this open, and we're gonna test for starch. Maybe, if I can get the bottle open. All right, shake that up a little bit, and our milk stayed yellow, or turned yellow. So there's no starch in it. It didn't turn that dark color, okay? It turned a little yellow, and that's because we put in that gold solution of iodine in there. Our next one that we're gonna test is Benedict's solution, or our sugar test. Remember, we're testing for glucose. Put a couple of drops in there. And then remember with the Benedict's, I shake it up a little bit, and then I put it in a hot water bath. Because in order for it to trigger, it would just stay blue, but in order for it to trigger, it's gotta be in warm conditions. So we'll give that a moment. Here's our milk again. I'm gonna go ahead and put Burette solution in it. Please remember that's testing for protein. And we're gonna see if it turns purple to see if there's any protein in there. And from what I can tell so far, it looks like it turned purple. So yes, we do have protein in our milk. Okay, so our next item that we're gonna test for is fat. Okay, now keep in mind this is whole milk, and so hopefully as you were doing you were seeing what, you know, you were kind of thinking about it. So I put some Sudan in there, and we're testing for fat, okay? And let's see if we end up with bright red, or do we end up with more of a dull maroon? That would be more bright red. It's kind of creamy looking, and that's because it's in the milk. That doesn't have the, you know, it's not clear to see through. So that's definitely more bright red than the others. And let's check our sugar test here and see what we ended up with. And I may need to shake that and then put it back in for a moment. All right, so I've got sort of a blue color, but I think I'm gonna pop it back in there for a moment because my water may not be warm enough for it. So to kind of recap, as we're just giving that another moment or so, there is no starch in our milk. Our iodine stayed gold. And then our Benedict's, we're waiting for that. The Burette, it turned purple, so there's protein. And our Sudan turned a bright red, and so that's gonna mean that there's fat in there, okay? And let me pull this back out. I think it's been in long enough now. It's steaming pretty good, so, and that stayed a blue color. So I'm not seeing that there should be sugars in our milk.